everyone. Welcome to Elevating Your Life. So happy to have you with us today. Today, I have a great guest to share with you. We have with us today David W. Berner. He is the best-selling author of Walks with Sam and the award-winning author of A Well-Respected Man, October Song, Accidental Lessons, Any Road Will Take You There, There's a Hamster in the Dashboard, Night Radio, and the memoir, The Consequence of Stars. He is the recipient of honors and awards from the Society of Midland Authors, the Chicago Writers Association, and the Eric Hoffer Book Awards. He has been a writer in residence for the Jack Kerouac Project in Orlando,
Yes.
where he was privileged to live and work at the Kerouac House for 2.5 months. He later was honored as the writer in residence at the Ernest Hemingway Birthplace Home in Illinois. His work also has appeared in the Chicago Tribune, Cleft Notes Chicagoland Journal for the Arts, and Under the Gum Tree. David moved from Pittsburgh to Chicago to work as a radio reporter and news anchor for CBS Radio, and later pursued a career as a writer and educator. His first book, Accidental Lessons, is about his year teaching in one of the Chicago area's most troubled school districts. It won a Golden Dragonfly Grand Prize for Literature. I bet that was amazing. His latest book is Daylight Savings Time. So, David, first off, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. It's very, very nice to be here.
Oh, so glad to have you. And oh my gosh, so many books and so much. And I do have to say, because it just touched my heart, working with the Chicago area's most troubled school districts. I mean, thank you so much. I have a dear friend that did that for 30-some years in Seattle. And, you're affecting the lives of so many kids and doing so much for others. First off, thank you for that, David.
Well, that's very nice of you, but I can't. I have my stepdaughter is a teacher in Denver, and she teaches at a more privileged school district. But the material and the things that she goes through, I don't I don't know. I don't know how she does it every day. And when that situation that became my first book, Accidental Lessons, that situation, troubled school district is kind of a wide definition. It was mostly troubled because it was underfunded, and that it was a school district that the second language really was English. It wasn't Spanish. So it was we had a lot of immigrants, a lot of former migrant worker families. So it was that's what made it troubled. And we had our violent moments, but it wasn't like it was in some of the Chicago schools. So it was a life-changing experience for me. It really was.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Thank you. If you want to share a little more of your history, feel free. And I'm intrigued to ask, what triggered you to begin writing? And then that moved you on to so many things that you've written. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, as I've been a journalist kind of most of my life, mostly in broadcasting. So I had always been sort of writing in a way, but I never thought of it as sort of like formalized literature. It wasn't like that. It was journalism, not the less than journalism. That's not what I mean, but it was a different form of a different part of my brain. And when I experienced this issue, this year, teaching in the troubled school district, one of my sons said to me when I come home from the experience one day, said I was telling him some of the stories, and my son said, "Are you writing this down, Dad?" And I felt really bad about it because I wasn't. And as a journalist, that was like the worst thing you could do, right? So I started to write it down, and it became it became a book. And the book is really about my transformation about what those kids taught me. So I had always been writing, but then when that book was written, I started to think about, well, maybe there's more to talk about. Maybe there's more things to do, more things to say, more things to explore. And Any Road Will Take You There came after that, which is based on a very long road trip I took with my sons. It was about my father, and it was really about a story about fathers and sons. But then I started to write fiction, and I started to write other memoir and short stories and essays, and now it's such a part of my makeup now, my DNA, is that I get a little edgy when I'm not writing. It doesn't feel right. So and the idea I've had friends to me say, "You got another book coming out?" And the thing of it is, I come from broadcast, and broadcast is let's go, let's go, let's go. It's like, what have you done for me in the last 5 minutes? So my brain is sort of wired to just keep going, keep writing, keep doing, keep creating. And I really don't know any other way to do that. You hear about writers who take years and years and years and 10 years between books and things like that. That's fine. I mean, that's fine. And, there's been some magnificent work out there, but my brain doesn't work like that. I tend to be, I tend to write relatively fast, and I tend to get really, really super focused on something. And I think that's why I'm able to sort of be prolific, if you want to use that word.
You're just wired to that, and
I'm
it's
wired to it. Yeah,
probably
I really
feels
am.
good and
Right.
accomplished.
Yeah.
And so with doing all that, is it like constantly ideas come to you? Are they instant? Or you think about, oh, I may want to write about this one day?
It's usually if I may want to write about this one day. It's usually the way it comes, or a certain theme if it's fiction. Most of the fiction that I write is based at least a sliver on something about my life or something I experienced. Much like, not to put myself in the same category, but much like Hemingway, a lot of his fiction was really based on, to some extent, on something of it that he experienced. So I think that's where it came from. And I'm not a planner. I'm not a outliner. I am what they call seat of the pants writer when it comes to fiction. I don't really know where it's going. There was only one book that I wrote, fiction book, a novel, that I knew what the ending was. I knew what I wanted the ending to be. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. Um, and I really don't know where some of this stuff is going to end up. I just started writing something a few weeks ago, and it's kind of based on something in my life, but it's fiction. And I started thinking today a little bit more about it, and I said, I have no idea where this is going. I like the beginning, I like where it starts off, I like the feel, and I'm just going to let that carry me. Memoir is a little bit different. The personal stories are a little bit different. I sort of have a bigger theme. I sort of understand that I'm trying to relate to the human condition, something that we can all share. Um, because memoir, when it's bad, memoir can be nothing but navel gazing. You're kind of talking about yourself too much. But if you can make that into something that's relatable to other people and be a part of the human condition, then it resonates a lot more widely. Um, and so when I'm writing those kinds of things, I try to think a little bit more about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
When I write essays, though, when I write like a personal essay, sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about until I'm done.
Well,
I
that's good to
honestly
know.
do not. I don't know, like, okay, what am I actually trying to say? And there's a great quote, and I always get this a little wrong. I should learn to get it exactly right. But basically, what it is the great essayist Joan Didion said one time, "I write to find out what I'm thinking."
Oh
And I
my
always like
goodness.
that. Yeah, I always like that because I think that's kind of what I'm doing. I don't know what it is I'm actually thinking until I start to like churn it,
Yeah,
work it through the words. So
yeah. I know myself with my book, it's like I something would just come to me and I was like, okay, I want to write a chapter about that.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. And there have been times where I've done that too, but I've gotten through the chapter and I said, well, this is now going in a direction that I did not expect it to go. and then I have to sort of massage it and figure out what I'm really trying to say. But I usually don't know what that is until I'm actually, getting hundreds of words down on the paper. And then it starts to crystallize, or it starts, or at least, come alive in some way.
Yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
It's a mysterious art. I think it was Norman Mailer who said, I think his words were, again, I'm screwing up a quote, but it's something to the effect of, it's the spookiest art. Writing is a spooky art in that you really don't really know what it is you're trying to say. And it's sort of like coming alive as you're doing it, which I think is really interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I, it's almost like, planting a seed and seeing it grow, what you're going to
Yeah.
add to it, what you're going to,
Right.
you know, it can be looked at it in so many ways, can it? I mean, writing really is a beautiful thing and
Right.
can be
Right.
fun, fulfilling. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, in this, my book now, the book that's out now, Daylight Saving Time, it came out, when I think about it, it came out as an essay. It came out starting the theme of it, which is about aging and about sort of like grasping and embracing as you age, those experiences and what you're going to do with the rest of your life, kind of thing. And that came out of one essay. It came out of sort of an essay that I wrote about that on a birthday. And I started saying, I think there's more to this. And so that's what the book is really about. Daylight Saving Time is about that, about looking at where you are in the world at the moment, at any age really, because we're all aging. It doesn't matter if you're 65 or 24, you're still aging. But how do you embrace what you've got in front of you? How do you say, um, what I see in front of me, is joyful, or something in front of me that can be embraced and made whole in some way. The book is not a self-help book. I don't mean to imply that I'm some guru about the facts of aging, and that's not what it is. It's a personal story that I think sheds light on that process for anybody. And I it's almost like an observation, and that these little synapses go off, that sort of light up particular aspects of the process of growing older.
Yes.
um yeah, the title Daylight Saving Time comes from sort of like wanting that one extra hour. That one little moment, that one
Oh,
little thing, that one little experience that, but holding on to it, saying you're going to get it, not sitting back and going, gee, I wish I would have had time for this, or I wish I would have made time for that. It's about saying, there it is right there in front of you. Just go for it.
yes.
So I again, when I began that book, I wasn't exactly sure where it was going, but I knew it was something about aging. So
Yeah, I love it.
spooky.
And I love that your input in the book is, aging is, you don't see it as negative, but you see it as positive.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
myself, I believe as I age, I'm going to celebrate that.
yeah,
Yes, it's going to be come with, aches and pains and, the just getting older, but I'm going to celebrate every year
yeah. And I
ahead.
don't. The other thing is too. Some people say, "Oh, you're trying to hang on to your youth." No, that's not what it's about. You know, I'm 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 thrilled with my wrinkles. It's like
Mhm.
this is shows you where I've been. It's like a roadmap of where I've been, right? Emotionally, physically, all those things. Um, and I'm embracing that. I feel good about that. Yeah, would I like to be able to, work out longer or walk longer, or, not have to worry about eating that one extra, French fry? Sure, I would love to be able to do that. But the reality is aging doesn't allow you to do that. So how do you take that and make that more of a positive thing, and a more of a something that you can embrace a little bit,
Accepted.
rather than say, oh
Mhm.
gee, I can't do that anymore. I don't know. There have been times. I'm not saying that I'm walking around being Mr. Positive all the time. I'm just saying that I do think that if we just twist our view, our vision just a little bit, it can matter a lot. It can matter a whole bunch.
I agree. And
Yeah.
what's great as we get older, we can, change our view a little bit. We can do, maybe different hobbies or do more, find things that we do and enjoy. And, we still can have enjoyment and enjoy other people. And, like me, just doing my shows now for 9 years, that's an enjoyment for me with my aging, you know. No more running a restaurant. I just, having fun.
Yeah, I
We
think
can all
yeah,
do things like that. It can be looking at a
yeah.
sunset or working in our garden or, you know, going and playing cards with friends.
And I also think we also I think as we get older too, we tend to start to think about for lack of a better description, we tend to think about, the we have less time on this earth than we've already had. I mean, we definitely do. And
Mhm.
there's no question about that. So how do you make the most of that in one way or another? And that doesn't mean, you're going to go write the great American novel or you're going to travel the world. I mean, it could, but really what it means is, as you said, just paying a little more attention to that sunset, or and for I'll give you for instance, I had my granddaughter for a few days, and she has this ritual. She's just about 3. But she has this ritual where you need to lay down with her in her, when she's ready to sleep with a book or something. She wants story. And, you kind of lay there for a little bit. She falls asleep and then you can leave and then, she's okay. But I probably should have done this because it actually stimulated her more than it got her to go to sleep. We laid down and I took my iPhone and I had the flash on my iPhone, the flashlight that's on your iPhone, up against the ceiling. And then I started doing, hand puppets on the ceiling with her. Like, here's a bunny, here's the thing. Well, she was out of her mind about this. But I kept saying, okay, this is probably overstimulating her at the wrong time. But then I said to myself, no, that's okay, because I'm really loving this right now. Maybe this moment's for me. You know, I'm never gonna have this moment again where I'm doing hand puppets on the ceiling with my granddaughter. Well, what I mean is probably gonna have fewer of these than I realize. So we did it, and it was great, and it did take her a little longer to fall asleep, but I look back at it and go, God, that was just a blast. That was so much
Special
fun.
memory for both of you.
Yeah, it was just, wonderful. Yeah. I worry about that sometimes with granddaughters, when they're like 2 or 3. What are they really going to remember from when they were 2 or 3? Um, I don't know. But yeah, for me, that was just a wonderful experience. It was such a kick.
I
And that's kind of what I mean. It's like, just say, the hell with it. This is going to be fun right now. This is good right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
I don't have to overanalyze this. Just do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know my Grammy time is priceless. And last year I got the best compliment of my life. My granddaughter said, Grammy, someday when I'm old enough to have my own dog, I'm gonna name it Paula.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean,
That's
those are
awesome.
special memories. They are. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that's, what we can continue to do as we age. Make Continue to make special memories, precious moments.
Mhm. Yeah. And I hope that's what people get out of the book. It's about this 1 year of, during daylight saving time, and sort of shifting my focus a little bit, looking at some of the things that I could do or what I didn't do or what I have done. And and some of it's very trivial, but some of it is, I don't want to say necessarily life changing, but certainly life altering. And and I think those stories, those personal stories of my own, are not unlike a lot of other people's stories. I don't have some special power about understanding growing older. I'm experiencing it just like anybody else, but maybe I'm just looking at it a little more deeply than other people are. And if I can get people to see things that they may not necessarily see right away because, life gets in the way.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's good, and I love the fact that that book can do that. That daylight saving time can do that. And I've had some wonderful feedback from readers about it so far that that have said just that in so many words. And I'm humbled by that. I'm honored and
Yeah.
humbled by that all the time.
And
Yeah.
would you say that this is a great read, not just for someone that's getting older, but a variety of ages, you
Yeah,
know,
that
it
question's been
brings up
asked.
the thought.
Yeah, that question's been asked a lot. Is this book only for people who are 50 and older or whatever? Uh, I think it might resonate with those people more, but I do think that a 35-year-old will get the same thing. A 35-year-old in his or her relative life has aged. They're from 15 to 35. There's been a hell of a lot of changes going on there, right? Probably more changes than there are from 35 to 60, in a lot of ways. But it's still growth. It's still growing. It's still aging. It doesn't have to be the 50 to 75-year-old. It can be the 15 to 35-year-old. And I think a 35-year-old can get the same sort of, I don't want to call it lessons because I don't want to give it the feeling that it's some kind of self-help or how-to book. It's not that. But I think they can share the same human condition elements, the same emotions and ups and downs and backwards and forwards that anybody can. We all do it, and it doesn't matter the age. Um, and I think that taking stock about where you are and where you're going next, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's still a
Mhm.
good thing,
Yeah.
right?
What would you say is the most important uh, thing someone could maybe think about in understanding the process of getting older? What would you say?
Um, I think the most underrated thing is that in America, the culture in America on aging is vastly different than most everywhere else in the world. Most everywhere else in the world, the elders are considered the wise people. They're considered the people who have wisdom, who have thought, who have something to say, who carry around luggage that have these, great stories in them.
Yeah.
In the America, generally, older people tend to get pushed aside. Our culture is shaped differently. Our culture is very much a youth culture. I think that's changed slightly mainly because our population is getting older all the time in America, and suddenly all of a sudden, there's a majority of people over 50. So that's changing, but we're still very much a youth-driven society in America. In most other countries, even though there may be a lot of youth in that country, elders are looked at differently. They aren't in America. We're looked at differently. Um, and so the thing that you're talking about, that what you asked me, is that try to change that with everyday acts of what you're doing. If you're 65 and you're walking around thinking, well, I'm never going to be able to do this or that now, either physically or because emotionally or whatever you are in your life, well, that's probably not true, in some aspect. Sure, if you've got a disability or something that's going to curtail your life. But then, then I watch the Paralympics and I'm like, oh my God, I could never do any of those things. So, it's just like, you have to realize that your potential is really within your own mind. It really is. Yeah, there are going to be some things. I mean, I can't do physically things I did when I was 25 necessarily, but I can make adjustments and I can, you know, um, do some of those things or do them in an augmented way. I play golf regularly. It's kind of my mind game, my sort of my it's almost like meditation for me. And I walk 18 holes. I do not take a cart. And you know, occasionally I'll do if I'm playing with guys that want to do that. But the group that I play with on a regular basis, they all walk and they're all over 60. And walking 18 holes is 6 miles, you know. So yeah, am I tired at the end? Sure, I'm tired, but I would much rather walk.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things can still be done. So yeah, it's a kind of a long-winded question or answer to your question, but I think it's about just redefining what age is in America, and you can do it with your own actions every day.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. Gosh. Well, we have about another minute left in the show.
Okay.
What last message you want to give everyone, David?
Well, you know, I really hope people take a look at the book. And you can, if you Google daylight saving time Berner, or if you Google my name, you're going to find it. David W. Berner, davidwberner.com. You can look there, obviously. But if you Google my name, you'll see it. Daylight saving time is available on all the online bookstores. It's in your favorite bookstore down the street. If it's not physically in there because of inventory issues with the bookstore, they can order it for you. I hope people take a look at it, and I hope they'll take a look at some of my other books and maybe find something else that resonates with them, and share it. You know, give it to your friends, let them read it. I mean, I'm all for. I love to do book clubs. I love doing book clubs on my own book. I think that is just a wonderful thing. It's awesome, and I do it. I'll do it Zoom. So if you want to do a book club, send me an email.
How
Um,
fun.
yeah, yeah.
Is
So
there
I love that kind of stuff.
is
Yeah.
there one of your books that was really the funnest one that you've
Oh
written,
wow.
that you had the
For
most
me to
fun?
write.
Yeah. Is there one
Ooh,
that stands out in the fun category?
you know, fun is an interesting word because that can be misconstrued, you know, as being like, oh, it's a fun book or it's a humorous book.
You
But
enjoyed writing
yeah,
it?
I
Yeah,
enjoyed writing.
yeah,
Uh, I would say it's funny when people always say, "What's your favorite book?" Well, it's usually the one I'm writing now. You know, that's the one I'm in love with
yeah.
at the moment. You know, it's sort of like all the girlfriends you had. You know, well, what was your favorite girlfriend? Well, my favorite girlfriend is the one I have right now. You know, it's sort of like that.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I have to say, I wrote a book, what was it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, fiction novella called The Islander, which is about Ireland, and it's about a kind of a reclusive writer, and about him rediscovering, you know, what life can be. And he meets
So
a
fun.
young girl who is a hiker,
Yeah.
and you know, their
Oh,
relationship, they help each other, and that to me
oh,
that resonated for me.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
David, I'm sorry we have to say goodbye.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone. This has been so great. Love, hugs, and blessings. Bye.